All right, thank you everybody for being here tonight. I apologize for starting a few minutes late. We'll go ahead and get started. We will go ahead and call this meeting to order with a roll call.
Board President Marissa Perez.
Here.
Board Vice President Martha Camacho Rodriguez.
Present.
Board Clerk James Cody Berkey is absent due to illness. Trustee Shinlu. Here. Trustee Salazar. Here. Trustee Avalos.
On the way.
And Trustee Lewis.
On his way.
Student Trustee Escobar. Present. And President Superintendent Fierro.
Here.
All right, thank you. We will now go on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Dr. Fierro to lead us in the pledge.
President Dr. Luke. Place your right hand over your heart. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will now move to item number 1.03. The Board of Trustees will discuss any changes in the order of agenda items. Per Board Policy 2340, the order of the business may be changed by consent of the Board of Trustees. It has come to the Board's attention that there is need for immediate action regarding an issue that came to the attention of the college subsequent to the agenda being posted. We are requesting that the Board approve adding the following item. 5.01, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, GC number 54957, case number 88721102. So we need a motion, and how many votes? Okay, so someone needs to move.
I'll move it.
So moved by Trustee Camacho Rodriguez. Second by Dr. Liu. So let's go ahead and take a roll call.
Student Trustee Escobar.
Aye.
Trustee Avalos is absent. Trustee Berkey is absent. Trustee Camacho Rodriguez. Yes. Trustee Lewis is absent. Trustee Liu. Yes. Trustee Perez.
Yes.
And Trustee Salazar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, so that item passed. We'll now go on to item 1.04, which are comments from the audience. So no comments from the audience. We will go ahead and move on to item 1.05, which are reports and comments from constituent groups. And we will go ahead and start with Dr. Griffin. Nope. Okay. Anybody? Dr. Miranda? Nope. Mr. Lopez? Nope. Doctor? Nope. Nope. No. Okay, so no reports today. So good. Moving right along. Item number 2.01, open session agenda. It's an institutional presentation on AB 705 implementation at Cerritos College. So we will go ahead and have our deans and faculty members take it away.
Thank you for this opportunity and requesting this. So we have a myriad of people here today. We have math dean, math faculty, we have liberal arts English dean, we have English department, ESL, reading, and ESL from AED. All of them are going to take a role in sharing where we're at with AB 705 and the work to date.
Great.
Right, thank
I just
you.
wanted to just thank you everybody for being here today, because we as a board are really looking forward to this presentation and hearing directly from our faculty members, because you guys are really the leaders here on campus in regards to interacting with our students and helping them be successful. So thank you very much for being here on a Wednesday night. So.
Well, good evening. Andrew Vines, Dean of Science, Engineering, and Mathematics, and I am joined by my esteemed Department Chair of Mathematics, Manuel Lopez. So we're gonna jump right into this. Of course, we'll start with mathematics. First thing is looking at the number of math sections. So we've seen a significant change in what we're offering in mathematics because we are shifting away from placing students in a developmental math towards going into our 3 gateway courses, which is Math 112, Statistics, Math 114, College Algebra, and Math 140, Trigonometry. And so the big thing to highlight here is when we go from looking at Math 60, 94 sections. So that column, 2014 to 2018, that is the annual average over the course of that period. So looking 5 years back before our current implementation of AB 705 for mathematics, and dropping almost 70% in the number of sections of Math 40, almost 75% in the number of sections of Math 60. So a significant decrease in the number of sections there. You will see a slight increase in Math 75 and not nearly as large of a decrease in Math 80. And the reason for that is because those two courses still serve for math proficiency, specifically for our Plan A students. The other thing that I wanted to highlight with the transferable math is beyond the gateway courses, we're also seeing an increase in the demand for our pre-calculus and up, which is fantastic, because that means that we're seeing an increase in interest in our STEM major students. One of the things that Manuel and I have really worked on is increasing the number of the Calc 2 sections, the Calc 3 sections, and linear algebra and Diff-EQ. Those are going to be our students that are bound for medical school. Those are going to be our students who want to be engineers, who want to be scientists. So that is a definitive increase in the number of sections and very bodes very well for our STEM majors. Now, this is what we looked at before implementation of AB 705 for mathematics. So before, our students were placed into math based upon their score on AccuPlacer. And of the students who took AccuPlacer, only 4% of them were placed into transfer level mathematics. 96% of our students were placed into developmental mathematics, either at 1 level, 2 levels, or 3 levels below transfer math. So 96%. And the success rate of those students, particularly Math 40 and Math 60, of being successful in transfer math, you can see there for Math 60 is only 7%, and for Math 40, only 9%. So only a handful of those students actually made it through developmental mathematics, got to transfer math, and were successful. So, looking at that 96% being placed into developmental mathematics, we're also not accounting for the number of times that those students may have repeated one or more of those courses. So we could look at a student that starts off in Math 40, takes it 3 times to pass, Math 60 takes it 3 times to pass, Math 80 takes it 3 times to pass to get to a transfer level mathematics course, and that student, even after all of that work, may still not have been successful in a transfer level math course. Now, this is prior to AB 705, so this is up through 2018. In fall of 19, now direct access into these courses. Students are taking the SRT or the GPT, and that places them based upon their background in mathematics, specifically based upon their scores in mathematics on their transcripts from high school. And so just to see the difference there, the access, and again, this is an annual average, 1,308 students. Now this is after everything else that I've discussed. This is after the Math 40, 60, 80 placement. This is after repeats in those classes, and the success being 609 average. This fall, that jumps to 2,930 students in transfer level math, so a 124% increase, with a 93% increase in successful completion, so going up to 1,178 students. So an absolutely substantial jump in access and successful completion of transfer math. So if we're looking at this from an ethnicity and race standpoint, now that we have open access to these transfer level math courses, now we need to really look at our disproportionately impacted populations. One in particular, our African American students. have very low success rates. One of the things to point out is before implementation of AB 705, many of these students were going through the developmental math series, and now they're being placed directly into, they gain direct access into transfer level mathematics. So now that we have open access for these students to these classes, the next step is to work on strategies to ensure the success of these students in these classes. And so at a course level, we implemented Math 5 as a just-in-time remediation course. So that was already on the books, but before it was used for Dev Ed math courses. And so we repurposed that course to join the Math 112, Math 114, and beginning spring of 2020, Math 140 sections. The faculty are very much working on the 112, 114, and 140S sections. So those will be very similar to the model that we have in English. So we have dedicated sections that have that just-in-time remediation built in instead of using that augmentation method of the Math 5. We use the embedded tutor program from Academic Success. They are absolutely wonderful, and I can say that not just for mathematics, but throughout the SEM division. Our reading team is going to talk about math-specific reading courses that are developed using the stats textbook, and our adult education team has developed phenomenal support courses for our students that are non-credit, but they're also free to our students. At a program level, one of the things to highlight is the Stats in Motion program, which was very successful this past summer. We ran 4 sections of Math 112 specifically for our athletes, and the success rate was 92% for those 4 sections. I am very happy to say that we are in the planning stages to implement that program again this summer. Angie Connolly is working very diligently with our kinesiology team for that program to run again. As far as learning communities, we have really good models in our first year experiences, and we're looking to expand on that, working with Ed Partnerships, and also looking at our success programs. And I think this is really where we can develop success strategies for our disproportionately impacted populations, particularly our African American students. And so Dean Mixon and I have met with the Umoja team to look at how can we have dedicated courses for students in those programs. We already have a dedicated English course. Why can't we develop a dedicated math course and really have a strong cohort of students to support them in these transfer math courses?
A quick question. The
course.
numbers in this chart right here, are these success numbers?
These
Or
are
th-
success
these are-
percentages.
And that's with a grade C and above or D and above?
C and above.
C and above.
Yes, and those are just for fall of 2019.
So quick, I'm sorry, Marissa,
Yes.
if you don't mind. Quick
Yes.
question. So you talked about these particularly 2 programs, the Umoja program and the Puente program, but we have limitations in terms of how many students can actually have access to that. So my question to that is, knowing that our students don't always place in these 2 programs, what else do we have available to them to be able to grasp those students? Because I know there's limited funding, there's limited resources for both of these programs, yet the majority of our students who come perhaps unprepared from our variety of high schools within the district or outside of the district may not even be aware of these programs. So what are we doing to implement perhaps more opportunity for them to become part of the program? If that means we need to do more funding, what does that really look like? Because as first generation students, I would have had no idea about these programs.
So, as we get deeper into the presentation, there are some components of the presentation that outline disproportionately impacted groups. So we have had the opportunity to do some data mining over the last several months. They have produced for the first time actually very accurate, or at least we think accurate numbers on disproportionately impacted populations. So what we're trying to do based on the results from this first year of implementation is to identify which segments of the population are not being served properly, and then identify plans that specifically target these groups for support. And the reason that we are doing this is because in the last few years, it has been across the country and the state an initiative, the high waters raise all votes. And as we start breaking down or data, we're starting to see that is not the case. We have groups that have been benefited from some of these programs, but we have groups that are clearly not. So we're trying at this time to disaggregate that, which obviously is going to need additional resources and potentially implement new programs. But these new programs have to be developed in a way in which address the identified needs of the population. So we will require some additional resources. We will require the expansion of some of the support programs, successful programs, like for instance, Umoja, that has been quite successful. But we are also finding out, for instance, the Asian females are in one of our disproportionately impacted groups. They are not doing well. And we don't necessarily have a program on campus at this particular time that is specifically addressing those needs. So as we disaggregate the data, we are starting to see some gaps on performance that we have a little more clear than we used to.
Yes, Dr. Liu.
Turn on her
Your mic, Shin.
I would like to know the Math 5 is a all-purpose tutorial class. So is that for any math class or specific some math class?
It is not a tutorial class per se. What the purpose of Math 5, as it is in its present form, is to provide instructors an additional hour a week in which they can address just-in-time remediation issues. It's not an extra hour at the end of class where students can ask questions or work on homework, but it is an additional hour in which an instructor may say, in a statistics class, for example, we need to review percents before we start talking about, the issues like standard deviation or linear regression or whatnot. And that additional time is served to help students who may have some gaps in the foundational understanding of the subject to be able to address those needs.
So how many times student can take Math 5? For example, if student can take Math 112 and also Math 5, then pass that, and Math 114 and Math 5 again, can they do that?
Let me see. Well, we wouldn't have the typical student wouldn't go into math into the three different gateway courses because they lead into different paths. But in the instance, for example, where the student might change their mind, there are mechanisms in place in which students may be allowed to repeat a course. Now, that will be a point that won't match once our three courses, 112S, 114S, and 140S, make it through curriculum, because they will have that support, that additional time built into the courses. So there won't be any need for taking an additional support component.
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, students, there are ways to allow students to take the class more than once if it would benefit.
And Math 5 is free?
No, it's a paid course.
One unit?
One unit.
Oh,
of course.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good save there.
Trustee Avalos, something else with the Umoja program. One of the things that I was hoping for was to develop a model, because we really don't have that from a mathematics standpoint. And once we could implement that with that program and get data, gather data on the success of those students, then we would have a solid model and a faculty member who could really lead the charge in developing more sections and developing a larger program based upon the success. So the last portion here about our courses, specifically looking at Math 5. So in the fall of 2019, We had sections that had Math 5 attached to them, only 112 and 114. Beginning in spring of 2020, we now include Math 140 with attached Math 5s. And all three are planned to go to curriculum to have that that S suffix and built in just-in-time remediation. So again, the Math 5 we're utilizing right now until we get those three courses through.
So does that make them a co-remediation class or not? Is that different? When you add the S to it, when you add that 1 credit hour?
It'll be built in to the point to where the student, unlike the Math 5 that shows up as a different class, it will no longer show up as a different class.
It'll be built in.
So it'll be built into there so the student won't realize the difference in the class, which I think will be a lot better.
A 5-unit class or a 4-unit? How many units will that class become?
I think it's 5 with an extended lab. The students will have 2 additional hours per week
Okay.
to work on, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So with the Math 112, when we look at success rates, we don't see a huge difference with the courses with the attached 5 versus the ones without just-in-time remediation. However, with Math 114, our college algebra, we saw a substantial difference in the success rates of students who took the Math 114 with the 5 attached. There are a few reasons for that. One, from a faculty standpoint, the faculty are more comfortable teaching the 114 and the versus the 112, and that's just based upon teaching history of the faculty. So if they're more comfortable teaching the material and they're more familiar with teaching the material, then they're also going to be more familiar with how to utilize that extra time for just-in-time remediation for the students. So that is certainly an area that we want to work on from a faculty development standpoint of supporting the faculty in utilizing that just-in-time remediation for Math 112. I did want to highlight the fact that the average over the past several years was about 5 sections of Math 5. And again, those were attached to developmental math courses. And so this year we have 67 sections of Math 5, which means we have 67 individual gateway math courses with just-in-time remediation affixed to them. So we are definitely providing that access to the students who need that just-in-time remediation to be successful in those 3 courses.
So for the Math 112, that's a statistics class, correct?
Correct.
What type of faculty can teach that class? Is it just math faculty, or are we having faculty members of other disciplines able to teach that?
The minimum qualifications for teaching that course are the same as they would be for teaching mathematics.
Okay, so what if you're a psychology professor? Can you teach that? Economics professor?
Not according to minimum qualifications, unless we were to look at the individual's background and go through a qualifications standards check as far as parallel the background. And that is actually one of the speed bumps, if you will, with Math 112. When we're looking at faculty backgrounds in mathematics, oftentimes they didn't take mathematics as part of their bachelor's and master's degrees. As a scientist, I actually took more statistics than they did as mathematicians. If they did take statistics, it was likely in grad school, and it was a very lofty statistics and probability course, which wouldn't be very helpful in teaching descriptive stats as a freshman level gateway course. So that is one of the areas that we're really, really, really looking into to help faculty in developing the instructional skills to teach this course, considering the fact that it's just material that they're not as familiar with based upon their backgrounds.
So, Dean Vines asked me to come up with some bullet points in which I'd highlight some of the things that you've already seen the data supporting this. So I'm here mostly to answer any questions that you may have in this areas of growth in the math department. So I've mentioned here the revamping of the schedule of math classes. You've seen the numbers. Another consequence of AB 705 was the removing an option for students to meet math proficiency for graduations at Cerritos, the AccuPlacer test, is no longer available. Students used to be able to take this exam to test out of, say, Math 80, and then by virtue of this exam, they would be able to get an AA degree at Cerritos College. Well, with that test gone, the math department is committed to developing, we're in the process of doing that, a proficiency exam for Math 75 and Math 80, by which students can earn credit by exam. It should be complete. They should be completed in the next week or so. I also want to highlight that we've started collaborations with business, accounting, and finance, trying to get a course in their department, finance. What is it? 125M. In order to meet math proficiency requirements for option A of in our degree program. So that is I feel optimistic that that is moving in the right direction. In fact, I'm bringing my recommendation to my department at tomorrow's meeting that we support this inclusion. We are in the process of developing communities of practice as a result of training that, for which I want to take a moment to thank the VP of Academic Affairs, Rick Miranda, for his support in this area. This past summer, he sent a team of enthusiastic math instructors who want to learn more about the teaching of statistics to a really wonderful training session put out by the California Acceleration Project, they're behind a lot of the framework for AB 705. And at the core of this training that we attended, it was evident that if we are to be successful in meeting the needs of such a dynamic group of students, a more heterogeneous student population in these transfer level courses, we're going to have to address our pedagogy and learn how to address needs that are, sometimes outside of our area of expertise, the so-called affective domain of our students. And by our experience in this summer training, it became clear that building a community of practice in which faculty meet on a regular basis to discuss challenges and potential solutions to these challenges, and to support each other with, the frustrations of growing in the work that we do, that is an important component. So we were in the middle of that, and Rick has been very patient. The ball is in our court right now. Moving forward, we're trying to put a proposal together to be able to include adjunct faculty who I feel very strongly need to be compensated for agreeing to come on a Friday for regular professional development. We're working on that. Full-time faculty seem agreeable to the idea of getting flex credit for this participation. So I count among the successes then this continuous support from academic affairs for professional development. Let me see if we look at some of the challenges that we're facing now. Like Andrew mentioned before that a lot of our faculty have degrees in pure mathematics. And statistics wasn't even an elective course, so it didn't register in many of our formal training. And I've been teaching stats for now over 15 years, and I still, every time I go to a workshop, there's a light that goes on in my head, and it's just like, wow, that is really subtle, and that's a really important distinction that I didn't quite grasp before. So I am grateful to the faculty who've stepped up to the plate and moved away from their area of comfort, teaching Math 80 or Math 60 or even college algebra in order to support the student demand for courses like statistics. So one of the challenges that we face is how do we help our faculty develop teaching strategies that are backed by research as being effective with heterogeneous student population. So professional development is an area that we're very interested in continue to develop. We are interested in increasing overall success. I am encouraged by the numbers that Andrew shared with you today. Our success rates have not jumped, but the sheer number of students for whom this has become, transfer level courses has become for the first time a real opportunity is very encouraging to me. The number of lives, individual lives that have been changed as a result of the changes we've made is something that I'm very proud of and grateful that the math department has been willing to embrace this change and do the best that we can at this point to help the students forward. But we are not content with the success rates that we have, and we need to find ways of increasing them. So I am hopeful that by continuing dialogue and collaboration with administration and other departments, we will develop models to help our, what is the term, disproportionately impacted populations? I'm not very familiar with the lingo, but yeah, the groups that need the most help. Another area where we're facing some challenges is that we are eager to expand our online courses in the math department. And one of the biggest obstacles that we have faced in the past was our inability to feel comfortable with assessment on online courses that were 100% online. I'm happy to report that as Academic Affairs has made available a proctoring software, we have an instructor in our department piloting a 100% online math course for the first time. We are using Proctorio now to proctor exams online, and I'll look forward to giving you a report on how that turns out. We are hopeful that that's a step in the right direction. I mentioned here as another point of concern, the ever increasing cost of textbooks. I often wonder where I would be if when I went to community college, books were as expensive as they are today. I don't know if I'd be talking to you right now. A calculus book costs upwards of $300 for students that may need it for one semester or may be lucky enough to get 3 semesters out of it. And I'm talking about 3 different courses. I'm happy to report that a growing number of us are opting for OERs. These free resources that have been tested nationwide are free for our students. Perhaps a small cost for online management systems that provide support for the students. We are working with different companies to find a happy balance between cost and support. But that has been a challenge. I am happy to report that one of our own faculty member is developing an OER for statistics based on activity-based learning, which is a radical change from the norm of the way that these courses have been taught at Cerritos College, over the past few decades. So that has been a challenge that we're hoping to meet by means of OERs. And the last challenge that I have is that I have listed here is the need to enhance collaboration with other departments on campus and with administration, with all groups that are providing student support, so that we do it more effectively, that we are able to allow everybody to bring their expertise to the best possible, in the best possible way to serve student needs. And that has been a challenge. I'll take ownership on behalf of my department for some of that, for some of these challenging situations. We are not always the first to jump at a chance to collaborate. Sometimes we can be, just by nature, the way a mathematician thinks, we are a little more reluctant to embrace change than the average person. But I think we're moving in the right direction today. Like I said, we had a very productive meeting with the business department, and I am optimistic that I have good news to share with you next time we talk. And let me see here, my last slide. So these are some of the things that we are doing to address the challenges that I just mentioned. I've mentioned them already. Let me see. Andrew asked me, if you could stand before the board and ask them for something specific that they could do to support what you're doing as department chair and as a department as a whole, what would it be? Well, I think that if you continue to support the need for additional professional development and support mechanisms for collaboration amongst the different departments. And I don't know, I'm thinking that I've had positive experiences with retreats. I've mentioned that as something that has worked. When you can just come on a Friday, when you're not rushing from one class to the next, trying to get everything in a 1-hour meeting, and you can sit down for a moment and really delve into the issues that matter, I think that we have a better chance of finding the common ground that unites us as faculty to serve the needs of our students. So I hope that to the extent that you can, that you will support our efforts in this area. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them.
So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and, since the presentation's segmented, let's go ahead and ask any math-oriented questions to this group first, and then we'll move on to AED and then English, just to kind of follow your presentation. So go ahead, my colleagues. Ms. Avalos.
Thank you. I'll be a doctor someday, though. Thank you for that. Just, we're moving in the right direction. So thank you, first of all, for the presentation. I think it's very enlightening. I applaud you all for the effort, the time, the commitment to our students. Certainly from our faculty, I know there has been some pushback in some regards simply because it's new, right? And we're used to being very traditional. So I'm glad to see that we're moving in that direction where we're opening the doors for many of our students. So thank you for all your work, all your effort, and certainly the commitment to empowering our students to being able to get through the courses, quite frankly. So thank you for that. So I do have actually several questions. One of them comes down to really understanding where our students are coming from and recognizing that many of our students, when they get here, may feel A, unprepared, or B, even if they took the courses that they need, don't feel very competent, may be, particularly for first generation students, not feeling quite that they're fitting in or having family support, as we all know. And, I am going to put myself in that category. What are we doing for our students to be able to facilitate being actually placed in the right course? Are we informing them of this? How are we informing them of this? I can share with you that many of our kids come to us, and I say kids, young adults, come to our college feeling not very confident. And so knowing that, many of them might actually place themselves in lower math courses. So what are we doing to address that and mitigate some of the unintended consequences simply because they don't feel competent enough, right, to take the class? I know, Dr. Zafiro, I know, don't talk yet. Oh, you have one? Okay, maybe I'm jumping the gun. Okay, so should we just wait for the next slide? I don't know.
I think the answer is coming. But
Okay.
to your point, I just want you to share with you that,
I'm like, my mind's going, right? Sorry.
that when I hear you describe those frustrations, I am immediately reminded of my experience
Right.
first setting foot at East LA College. and not knowing what a counselor was.
Go Huskies.
Right, or, or getting to UCLA, not knowing the difference between a lower division and an upper division
Right.
math class, for example.
Right.
Things that, in some families, maybe some you just take for granted. So
Right.
that, what you're addressing, I think,
Exactly.
what I want to address real quick is this idea of the affective domain. The notion that a significant part of what we do is based upon building relationships. And mathematicians are not trained in this area very deeply. It has to be something that we in our community, within our community, understanding the specific needs of Cerritos College students, begin to address and embrace and take the risk, of doing things a little differently and open ourselves to the possibility that maybe not everybody had our experience growing up, and maybe not everybody had a life that was ruled by order and routine and because of this action, there's this consequence, that there's all kinds of experiences out there that may not fit our preconceived notions of who we're working with. And that is just to say that there is a need for training. But I think that I see a willingness on the part of my faculty to grow in this area. Not 100%, but I don't want that. I don't need that. I just want this board to support the efforts to take the group of us who realize that we've been missing a key component of student success, which is this building these relationships and a sense of community with our students that I think is gonna yield wonderful results, and I'm optimistic by nature. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So that was definitely one of the questions, but I guess it's going to be
Yes.
addressed later on.
Yes.
I wanted to find out from you, as you are placing these students in these math courses, what do you see the biggest difference between the students who started off, right, with remedial courses and may have flunked or not passed, right, proficiently to the next course? What is your
Just to clarify on the language, we don't do any placing ourselves as a department.
right?
We do see the students that come. And I can tell you this, I've heard a variety of narratives from my faculty. They are those who are very frustrated with having to teach a course that they've been teaching for years and years, and they have a certain way of doing it in which they can have some assumptions as to what students are supposed to know when they step into the room in order to take a class. And while we've always had students that come underprepared, some faculty have felt overwhelmed by the number of students that appear not to be where they need to be. And to that end, we've created this Bandaid approach at this time, which is the Math 5, to help students attain the skills they need in order to be successful. Now, I can tell you this, myself teaching some of these courses, I see students, I've learned to stop thinking so much of I need students to be where I need them to be so that I can do my job, and then shifting a little bit more to the view of let me see where you are so that we can move forward together, and figure out what it is that I can do as an instructor. I made, small changes that I've learned from the training that I've received over the last few months. Rewarding my syllabus, for example, has proven an effective way to start tearing down those barriers that have kept students from coming to my office, for instance. Changing my attendance policy, doing little things that make my classroom a little more appealing, my classes a little less threatening. And as far as the big difference, well, I wish I could tell you that I could appreciate the difference other than to tell you that many of the students that are in my transfer level courses today wouldn't be in those classes without AB 705. So I to me is it's a no-brainer that we are moving in the right direction. So it's that's where we are. Let me turn it over.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to put a plug in for adult education as well. So, as we have students that are going into these 3 gateway courses, their high school transcripts, their grades may move them into one of these 3 courses depending upon what their major is. But we also have students that get into these courses and they feel overwhelmed. And instead of them automatically going to a developmental math course, now we have students that are able to pull away from that gateway course, go into an adult education course and get additional support, build the confidence that they need. And Manuel and I have really worked with the schedule to try to make sure that we have 15-week late start courses, 9B courses, so the students can pick back up in that section later on in the semester after gaining the support from adult education. So we're trying to make sure that for those students who do get into a class that it's just more than what they expected, even though from the SRT standpoint, that's where they were placed based upon their grades in high school, they may just not feel confident right at the start to go into that class. And so we want to make sure that there is an avenue for those students to get back into that gateway course during the same semester and still make that attempt to complete the gateway course in the first semester.
I'm sorry, I have to just kind of interject here, but all the data shows that the students are not any less or more successful if you put them into a developmental class. I mean, like all the research says that if you put them in a transfer level class and you give them the additional support, which it sounds like what we're doing, they are as successful or more successful than suggesting a lower level remedial math class. And I guess that's the thing that I'm kind of still struggling with, because even when I look at your numbers on the first slide, the very, very first slide, you pass. And this is a very rough math calculations, so who knows if I did them right. But if you look at the math sections at the top, the math 40 to math 80, I counted that's 36% of the courses that were taken, that were offered. And if you look at the bottom, that's 64%. So how I'm reading this, how I'm interpreting it is this: we are still placing 36% of our students in remedial math that's not going to count for college credit and does not help them transfer. So I guess that's the part that I'm still having a hard time with, because while I definitely see the improvement and I applaud that and I understand that, but again, coming as an engineer major, there's no way I would ever have started in math 40 and been able to pass all the way to math 250. I didn't have enough money, first of all. That's my first thing. My financial aid would have run out a long time ago. And I don't think I would have had that courage to persevere. And I guess that's kind of still what I'm struggling with, is to see that so many of our students are either placed there on their own, or they're being suggested. I don't know exactly what the placement and assessment. I know that's not you guys, so maybe we should definitely add that to a next group, because I don't think those are the right people here on placement and assessment and counseling and stuff. But again, that's the part for me that I'm still somewhat struggling with. So
I can tell you from the math department's point of view why you still see courses like a few sections of math 40 or math 60. They are dwindling, but the reality is that not every student that comes to Cerritos is here to transfer. And I can't, in good conscience, write the needs of those students off to say, well, the research says that you'll be better off taking a stats class that will get you your AA degree if you pass, say, Math 112. But I'm thinking of the number of students who might have been away from school for many years that come back, and for whom that may not be a viable option. Now, I believe the data that you're referring to, and that is why I am so adamant a supporter of AB 705. But I think here at Cerritos, we still have students, fewer students that would benefit for a class like that. Most of the sections that you see listed for math 40 and 60 and even 80 are offered through our semi-independent lab. There are very few lectures now left of these courses, as we are, I am hoping, and this is, I'm not speaking yet as department chair, but as an individual in this matter, that that our collaboration with adult ed will continue to grow, and that they will take a bigger and bigger role in addressing the needs of students that need developmental math courses. But I agree with you. The more obstacles that we place in the way of our students, the less likely they are to ever achieve. And I'm talking about the students whose plan is to transfer and then get a bachelor's or beyond.
And I guess, I mean, I always go back to one of the girls I interviewed for, actually a young woman for a scholarship. She started off in Math 40, and she wants to be a veterinarian.
Sure.
I mean,
It is,
honestly,
right.
like, it was inspiring to meet her. I love talking to her. I think I referred her to Dr. Fiera. We met a couple times for coffee across the street. But again, I can't get her out of my mind, knowing that she wants to become a veterinarian like Dr. Fiero, and she started off in Math 40. And last time I checked with her, she was taking calculus too. But I remember when I saw she's
Well, she's
few
the
and far
exception.
between. She's the exception. I guess.
Absolutely.
She's the exception. And when I saw her transcript and I realized where she started, I was like, wow, do you realize that you are an anomaly, here at our
Absolutely.
college? So I guess for me, that's my role, is to advocate for other women who are just like that. And I know they have high goals, and whatever I can do to support them. And again, I don't mean to challenge and big disrespect, because I'm really excited about it, but
No.
I'm just very passionate about especially women. So,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yeah.
Marissa,
Okay.
I have a question. Just looking at
Yes.
the enumeration of each math course. So this is your first generation student here. I'm looking at pre-algebra, saying, okay, I did pre-algebra. I did algebra. Then I followed geometry in high school. And what is integrated algebra? Because intermediate. I'm sorry. So as I'm looking at some of these courses, right, the next class should be trigonometry. But looking at the way that these courses are numbered, as a student, I can tell you right now, I would have placed myself in one of the other classes simply
Right,
based on the wording that it has,
And
right?
that is-
And most students from high school get it in this particular fashion. So you wouldn't think the next obvious class would be trigonometry, but I probably would flunk out of trigonometry in college because I hadn't taken the college algebra course. So what are we doing to be able to have our students better understand the numbering system that we have, one, and then two, to really identify what those courses look like in terms of what their high school experience was, and be able to merge that and combine that with what their college experience should be like, and knowing that they are going to truly be successful, right? That's one
Yes.
thing. The second thing is, even looking at the pre-algebra class, the elementary algebra, plane geometry, do we have embedded tutoring in those classes? Are we going to have them moving forward in all classes? Because I feel like even with some of these, remedial courses, or, we're still going to have students who are going to be struggling in math. And if we look at even our K-12 system, look at all across the state, most kids are still now performing at a lesser percentage in proficiency in math, period.
Yes.
So knowing all of that, and I recognize that you've offered so many great anecdotes to rectify a lot of these ills that we currently have, and I certainly appreciate that, because I can hear the passion in your voice in really supporting our students. And I think our faculty is doing a phenomenal job in really trying to align with our new requirements. I think that's great. But I do think we're missing a little bit of the point when we look at this, and I would have, as a high school student, said, oh, my next class should be integrated algebra, which still puts me at a lower remedial course.
I know, I'm not an expert in this, but I know that we are developing these guided pathways that are going to address this need for clear direction for our students. So I know that that will probably be part of this presentation or another presentation later on, but those are valid points.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to interject just because I love math, but I also want to give time for English and adult ed. So I'm going to move on to any other questions. Yes. So So Trustee Lewis, who else has a question about math?
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, Trustee Lewis. Yes. Thank you.
So you mentioned earlier about breaking down silos, and one of those silos I think that needs to be broken down is also with the EPP program, and talking about how, and I haven't seen this in the presentation, but tell me if I'm wrong, about moving into dual enrollment, because what we have now with all of the, with some of the schools is only Math 80. We don't provide any college level courses for math to any of the high schools. And so what direction can we go with that?
We are summer courses for the last 2 summers. We've offered pre-calculus at 3 different high schools. So Math 155 at John Glenn, Norwalk, and
But is that current though?
yes, and it's on the books for this summer.
Oh,
So
for this, okay, coming up this summer.
Yeah, it's they're staffed and we're ready to go, and we're excited to expand the program. I believe Gar High School is jumping on board this summer for the first time. I just received an email today that they've confirmed a need to run a pre-calculus class that will be staffing. So right after this meeting, I'm going to go sit down and make some phone calls to find a pre-calculus instructor for Gar High School. So we are moving in that direction.
That's good. And that's, will also be going into fall and spring, or is that
yes,
currently for summer?
We had I was at a meeting with the new, what is his position? He is the person who makes decision on curriculum for Norwalk La Mirada in mathematics. And we had a good conversation about whether or not offering Math 80 or ADA to their students was the best use of dual enrollment, or whether we should change the approach, and that is something that they're working on, and we are ready to meet whatever needs they present, whatever direction they want to move as a district. Cerritos College Math Department is ready to support that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Trustee Perez, could we let Ali do the support of on AD? And something to keep in mind, remember this is the first year of implementation of AB 705. So there is some experimentation that is taking place for us to be able to make some adjustments. One thing that I would like to ask Vice President Miranda is if he could get us the data, the actual percentage of students that were placed on developmental courses, and perhaps if we can find out the reason of why they were placed there, and separate it on Math 80, because I know Math 80 is still a course that meets graduation requirements. 75, I'm sorry. Yeah, 75 and 80, thank you. And the other one, so we can get kind of an accurate representation of these. But I want to emphasize that this is the first year of implementation. We have very little data, and everyone kind of step up pretty quickly to get us where we are. And there is some very interesting work that is happening in adult ed, so I just want to make sure our friends from adult ed have the opportunity to showcase that.
Thank you, and thank you so much for all the work that's been done. So, if you don't mind,
Microphone.
do I need the microphone?
Yes, please.
You know, standing behind a podium, not my thing, so you're going to see me dancing back here. Oh, really?
Or just turn it around the other way.
Thank you.
Don't let it fall.
So, good evening, everyone. My name's Gabriela Barrera de Contreras, probably the longest last name you'll hear tonight. I'm a former Cerritos College student. I actually attended Cerritos College as an undergrad, as well as Castle Long Beach, and graduated from Castle Long Beach. I'm on my 4th year, and I'm the department chair for ABE, which is Basic Skills, and HSC, which is anything in the high school equivalency scenario. I'm here in representation of our adult education program. First, I want to take the time to thank the board for inviting us. Thank you for just being interested, genuinely interested about what adult education is doing to support AB 705. To the BP and the deans, thank you for inviting us to present. And before we get started on how we're supporting students, for many of you, it may be the very first time, feel free to tell me that, I sound funny. It may be the very first time that you're hearing about adult education at Cerritos College. And maybe the mission and the vision is a little blurry about what is it that we do. Is this only for people that dropped out of high school, right? And so I want to make sure that I give you a visual. And you'll forget and you'll forgive that I didn't post something up there, but I want you to walk with me on a visualization exercise. I'm sure that at one point or another you have seen this image. It's a cartoon of a fence, and behind that fence there are 3 students standing, and they're all on the floor, and not everyone is able to see over that fence. Near to that, adjacent to that, you have the exact same image with the fence, the same 3 students behind that fence, but you now have some scaffolding underneath each student depending on their heights. And so it's almost like a stairway. That is what adult education is. That image reminds us about equity, that not all students need the same thing to be successful. And we believe that that's the mission of adult education, to make sure that we give just what they need and honor anything that they bring with them. So our focus is self-efficacy, the belief that students can be successful, that they are going to be successful given the right tools, the right strategies, given the right opportunities. And so a lot of the questions you had resonated with what we believe in adult education. AD has been here at Cerritos College since the early 70s. And as such, we have played a role in supporting all students. So first thing I want you to know, every single student that walks onto Cerritos College can take an AD course. All of our AD courses are absolutely free. They do not count on their units for financial aid, and they're repeatable as many times as they need them. For most of the students that we're currently servicing, this was an option they took on. It is not something anyone is making them do. They have decided, they have looked at what their needs are and the best way to fill them. And adult education is there to support them. Our faculty, mainly adjunct, but I want to tell you that we believe that we have to constantly relearn what we know, because the group that we are servicing every single semester, every class changes. And therefore, our instruction, our tools must change with them. So getting to know how they're doing, getting to know what barriers are we putting in front of you, what barriers do we need to remove, is part of what we want to do. Our courses also offer very little risk. There's no fees. Their GPA is not impacted negatively. They have no repeatability limits. If a student starts in 114, which is college algebra, and then realizes, wait a minute, I thought I wanted to take on this major and I may not be suitable for it. I want to change to something else that requires statistics. They can take our support class for either one of them as many times as they need it. So there's lots of flexibility within non-credit. We believe that we cannot address the needs of our students with one size fits all. They don't need the same level of support. They don't need the same hours of support, and they do not need the same level of instruction for support. We spoke about students who may be off on a career and then re-enter and having that need of developmental math. But we know those students come with so much experience already that we can tap into to then really effectively engage them. And yes, you can. This is something you can do. Let's acknowledge everything you already have with you and put it to use for what you're venturing on again. So our support courses, students can be co-enrolled with a credit course. They could use it as a preparation course. If they are hesitant about signing up for that 112, 114, they can try on our course. We are not teaching them the material from that level course. We are preparing them for them by filling the gaps. As a WIO2 funded program, we are mandated by the state to do a pre and a post. And the standardized tests developed by the state and reported from us to the state focus on work skills applied in mathematics and real life scenarios where mathematics needs to be used. So isn't it great that we get to acknowledge all of the skill set that student's walking in with from the beginning? We can also use our course, and we hope to grow this as a recovery course. How many of our students take a college credit level course in mid-semester, life circumstances, whatever it may be got in the way, they realize I'm just not gonna make it, and they drop it. Why should they wait until the next semester to tap into all these resources? Adult education is prepared to welcome them in at any point in the semester. Again, giving them the opportunity to fill in gaps and better prepare for the next attempt that they're gonna take at that class. We wanna make sure that you know all our courses have gone through the curriculum process that any credit course has here at Cerritos College. And in addition to that, the state has approved them. These are state-approved courses. We have SLOs that we measure. But the beautiful thing is we focus on progress. We allow students to recognize not just when they successfully complete a course and when they fail a course. We want to give them the opportunity to also acknowledge the growth that they had. So we are able, as a grading system, to give them satisfactory progress. To say, hey, you're right, you might have to take a second go at this, but you made some growth, and you need to celebrate that just as much as you would have celebrated passing this course. We have developmental courses that are content-based, like pre-algebra, absolutely free, instructor-led, with a lab, where we offer open source materials for free in the lab so that students have access 24 hours, 7 days a week, as much as they would like to. And they have access to all of this as long as they continue their attendance in our course. So we're incentivizing that, hey, you gotta be here so you have access to all these wonderful things. Because by being in my class, you're gonna make some strive, you're gonna make some learning, you're gonna make some growth, and it's gonna happen. We also have preparatory math, which formerly was Math 20, that's basic math. That's exclusively on the non-credit side, but it's accessible to anyone. In addition to that, for AB 705, we have recently passed math support in statistics and math support in college algebra. Again, I want to emphasize that we are here to support all students and that our focus is self-efficacy. We want them to know they can do this on their own with the right level of support. So when you see math support statistics, I don't want you to think that it's an instructor teaching those stats. No, we know that's not what they need. More lecture is not successful. We know that those students need a place where they can acknowledge what they know and, like Manuel added, go from there. We can say, this is where I see a gap, this is why you're having a difficult time, like he mentioned, percent. Percent is part of your basic math. Do you have to take a basic math course to be prepared for statistics? No. Let's acknowledge the fact that I can cover that with you right now and help you see the connection between that percent and standard deviation. And that's what we're doing in the support courses, preparing students within pre-statistics or statistics, Math 75 or Math 112. And then in math support, college algebra, again, we know one size does not fit all, right? We know that they're standing there and saying, this is what you need isn't good enough. So we specialize in individualized instruction, small group instruction, and whole group instruction when needed. This is faculty-led, that meet minimum quals, but many of them have lived the experience they lived. The embedded tutors are a perfect scenario where they can show them, hey, I know where you were because I went through it. We make sure that they know, that they see a face, that they hear the stories, not just in their heads, not just in their families, but the people that are in the room helping and explaining. And every step of the way, we're their cheerleader. Because it isn't enough to know content. It's much more important to know how to use that content. And math is about problem solving. And that's what we want to get across. So in the level of college algebra, we have students that need support in Math 60, Math 80, and Math 114. And we're prepared again to give them the individualized attention that they may need and recognize every single progress made. We also provide support in the area of English. We have an English support course as well as college English skills, which was formerly English 15. I know that you're wondering, great, this sounds great. So what could you possibly need from us? This is where I do the asking, huh? I know, huh? You're done. You're not getting anything. It sounds like you got it together. What's going on? We know that there's some negative connotations to adult education. That for many of us, and perhaps many of our students, they see this as, wait a minute, I'm at college level. What do you mean I need to take a support class? That it's not credit? That it's not within, the college culture? And I think we have a real opportunity, like Rick Miranda said just a little while ago, of changing that college campus culture. We can help them. We can help them get what they need and just what they need as soon as they need it without using credits that are not going to a credit-related course. We can help them by helping them feel confident enough, regardless of their past experience. AD faculty commit countless hours. And like I said, they're adjunct faculty and they do this free. In collaborating, in team planning, in observing one another and giving feedback, in collecting information from students, calling them when they're out and saying, hey, you haven't been here for 2 days. How are you? What's going on? How can we help you? So the way we can help, I want to thank you for your support already, because I know there's support in the room. I know that. I could feel it. But if I may be so blunt to ask, in my closing words, AD will greatly appreciate if you can help us make AD part of Cerritos College culture as support courses and as a place where they can get exactly when they need it, their safety net. Thank you so much.
Right. If you could please stay up there in case of questions. Yes, please. All right. So questions from my colleagues. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Avalos.
So thank you for recognizing me. So the courses, can you go back a slide?
Of course. Yes.
These courses here are currently part of the schedule?
Absolutely.
And these just came online for our students when? This past semester in fall 2019?
No, they have been offered. I started here at Cerritos College 15 years ago as an adjunct. We started that work 15 years ago. The only two that are brand new to this semester, it's the top two, the math support stats and the math support college algebra. The others have been on our schedule for at least the last 10 years.
Okay, so quick question, because I'm just thinking, as a student, are we allowing or exposing our students to know that this is available? So that's my first question. And if it is, I'm hoping it's done through our math college professors, one, and then two, through the placement portion of with our counselors.
So to both of those questions, the answer is yes. Our math faculty, our math dean has collaborated with us and they have advertised this.
Okay.
Our current placement tool also lets them know of the courses that we offer. Now, if you ask me, which you didn't, but I'm going to pretend you did. If you ask me, is that enough? My answer is no. Adult education runs queries every semester, identifying students who drop courses within the first 3 weeks of the semester. 6 courses will drop after 6 weeks, 9 weeks. Some of the students are responsive, but many of them, again, adult education, who are you? Are you at Cerritos College? Don't contact me again. So it's true that right now, for most of our students, this is the best kept secret. And many of them, without realizing, will say, did you have these courses 2 years ago? How come I didn't know about it? In fact, I just sent a survey today to some of our students, and they're saying, thank you so much. How can I explain the ways that you have helped me? And, why didn't I know about this?
So how do we notify students? Is it just via an email, a phone call? How are we twittering it? What are we doing?
That's an excellent question.
I mean, I don't
So
know
I
what
could
we're
tell you what adult education does. Like I said, it is part of the guided placement, right? The self-guided placement and the guided placement. It is advertised, I believe, in the websites, if I'm not mistaken, of the SEM division. It is advertised in our website, but like I said, it is a culture, right? So we need to change the culture. We go to fairs, we present. Right now, the marketing that we are doing through adult education is really calling, queries, emailing, everything you can think of on our end. But I think that we can do a better job as a college.
Give you an example. I'm a student and I just failed one of the math classes, right? Or I dropped it. Withdrew prior to me failing the class. So how would you know that I did that? Wait, first of all, how would you know that I did that? And then how would you reach out to me? Because I'm going to tell you right now, my first intent as a student would not be to go to the website. It won't be that.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing?
So queries is essentially a database of exactly collection, exactly of what you just spoke. It gives us an indication of who's enrolled in a class, whether they've dropped the class at the end of the semester, what kind of grade they earn. So what we do is we run separate queries, again, adult education, primarily my dean and I, with the help, of course, of IT, and they identify students that we know have dropped the course, right? I do it every 3 weeks, so at third week. So what then we do, our staff from the adult education department will email you, send you our flyer, say, hey, I noticed you're no longer enrolled. Why don't you take the support class? And we highlight the main points of what our course can how our course can benefit their needs. We also make calls. But again, is that the most effective way to reach students? I would argue today, no. Twitter sounds good, right? Facebook, some of those social media, but again, I don't know if that could become part of how we reach out to students.
Right. It almost seems, I hate to say this, but it almost seems sort of not a waste of time, but knowing our young college student now, emails, that's kind of, they think that's kind of like not exactly the way to go. Phone calls, good luck if they pick up the phone.
That's been our
Texting,
experience.
possibly a little bit more. I think that's more their like, okay, send it a quick whatever, right? My kids never answer their phones, but they'll respond to my text, right? And they still love me. I just know that that's how they operate, right? So,
And this is where we're knocking at your door saying, help us.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that we have a system, at least in the adult education department,
Yeah.
to make use of that.
I would really like to see Dr. Farrell, you look on this in the marketing aspect of it, because this is, going on my 8th year here. I honestly did not know that. Maybe I did, but maybe it's kind of just refreshing again, because I love the pairing of it, the pairing of this with the credit class. I like that because it's kind of like co-remediation, but then you get it for free. So that's even, for me, like an incentive, because now I'm not going to have to pay for one credit union.
And you want to hear something? For the Math 112, the textbook, the lab that they may require, it's $283. They take our support class, they get it for free. 100% free.
we need to advertise that.
Yes.
Because I would have been like, sign me up, $283, just save myself the money.
Yes.
And we really need to, to really advertise what is free for our students. I can share with you that, as a parent of a college student, I'm looking at the price tag on these textbooks, and you're only going to use it one time. I'd really like to see, and I know much of our faculty, when they've gone on certain sabbaticals, have really offered a lot of that. Kudos to those faculty members who took the time to put it online and make it accessible and very inexpensive for our students. I think, the more that's out there, right? There's so much information out there that, our textbooks, quite frankly, are becoming obsolete.
And we're
And
always
so-
welcome to collaborate. There's only 2 full-time faculty right now, one in the area of ESL, that's Martha Robles. I in the area of ABE, HSC. We have about 10 program areas with different courses. But one of the things we want to make sure that everyone knows on campus is you call us, you email us, you set up a meeting, we will be there. We want to make sure that we collaborate. We know collaboration among different entities at the college can only yield success. We do not believe that we have all the answers. We do not believe that we can be a standalone and be successful. We know we need to collaborate, and so we're very open to that. And in fact, the last point on the slide, and I didn't say it because I'm sure you read it, but data collection is what we seek. We don't quite fit in the credit model, and so sometimes some of our data is not the best, and so we really can't present numbers and successes. But we are eager to learn from what we're doing well and revamp what we are not doing so well. And that data is really going to be so important, like you were saying. How many students are we really reaching out by making calls and emailing?
Well, I think if we look at the fact that we're being incentivized by the state funding formula, that would promote more of our faculty to want to align and collaborate to be able to increase the success rate of our students. So I hope you're all listening out there. That was a hint. Wink, wink. I know we're doing everything we can on this end, but I think too, the better advertisement that we have, right? Whatever platforms that may be, the easier it will be for students to know it's available, because, even as trustees, we don't know every single program, and people, for whatever reason, assume we know every single detail, and we don't. But the more that obviously that we're learning, we're going to obviously promote it now that we know about it and that we know how it's working and how it's supporting our students. But I think there needs to be a bigger opportunity for just the advertisement of such, programs to support our students, because I don't think many of them think as adult ed as a support system. They think of it as regression, quite frankly. I'll be honest with you, right? It's almost like you go to the adult school when you didn't do well in the regular school.
That's right.
So that has that negative connotation. So I think that perhaps we even look at changing the name, because I don't think adult ed is something that is seen as a positive, even on our K through 12 system. I hate to say that, but having taught high school, when a kid told another kid, hey, I'm going to adult school, that was like, oh, that's a really bad thing. Even though I think they're very supportive programs and they have phenomenal instructors, I don't think it's seen as a positive. And so we need to change that perception of it in general. But I think part of it is just advertising it better as a student support services division or component.
And I could see my dean nodding, so I know that she's not opposed to that.
I got just to add to that too, I think we've talked about this math boot camp for all the years that I've been here on this board, paying for people, but if we could somehow collaborate to do the math boot camp and that be for free for our students, because we talked about that. I mean, again, knowing that some students are either scared or they don't feel prepared for that first level, college level math, if we could somehow collaborate to create a boot camp through AED that's free, why not? That's just going back to the challenge of trying to get, them into a transfer level math quicker and more successfully.
You call me, it's done. I have the faculty, I have the rooms, I have the curriculum. Let's
Dr.
go.
Fierro,
I'm ready.
Are you on? Get on that train real quick.
Give me a call, and it's
Right.
done that same
Yeah,
day.
so Trustee Escobar has one question, then we're going to wrap it up in 5. So move on to English.
I was curious to see if there was any chance that we can add math support to trigonometry as well, as that's one of the transfer level math courses that some students are finding difficulty in grasping the concept. And another way that I would maybe just suggest something is that maybe you can come and give a presentation to our student leaders, student government. So I know that the cabinet, our court, and our senate, there's a lot of students there that are willing to spread the word, as well as our ICC, which is the presidents and club leaders, and they tend to be very associative with the campus. So that
Thank you. I think that's beautiful. In terms of the support for TRIG, it's coming. It's going to curriculum this semester. It's in the draft stages. I'm hopeful, again, with the collaboration of the math department, that this is something that we can do. Because again, going back to that image, right? Not everyone needs the same level of support. So even though math may have their support courses, we want to give students choice and flexibility of selecting just the right level. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much. All right. Okay, moving on to the next group, English department.
Our numbers will definitely look better there, right?
I don't want to spoil the surprise.
Knowing what the trends are.
So I want to say thank you to Dr. Fierro and to the trustees for inviting us here this evening to share with you the impact of AB 705 as it pertains to the 3 areas of liberal arts, English, thank you, English, ESL, and reading. And I'm like Gabby, I can't stand behind these things, but I will. I've been whipped enough times now. AB 705 really had a significant impact on our area. It required that students be able to complete English 100 in a year, transfer level English 100, get into it. It allows students in ESL to move through the pathway over a 3-year period, and it really virtually eliminated reading. And so what we're going to do is talk about the impact I'm going to show you the data and the impact of AB 705 on each of these areas and what they have done in response to it. Before I start, though, I want to acknowledge a few people who are not here tonight. One is my predecessor, David Fabish, the dean before me. He set a environment of creativity, innovation, and progress that really laid the groundwork for allowing me, or allowing the division, to implement AB 705 in a relatively smooth fashion. And so I would be remiss in not mentioning him. Also, there are two faculty members, Lynn Serwin and Nikki Lovejoy, who have worked tirelessly over the last 4 or 5 years to help introduce and implement accelerated courses before AB 705 and co-rec courses with the implementation of 705. And finally, Janae Daniello, who is the chair of the English department and who is not able to be with us tonight, to whom we wish our best, but April will be speaking on her behalf, and so we're grateful to have April with us. So, to begin, English, Trustee Avalos, yes, the news is good. So looking at the enrollment from fall 2014 to fall 2019, it has more than doubled from 1,900 to 4,000. The success rates, so the number of students who successfully complete the course, have doubled, 1,200 to 2,400. You do see that I said the success numbers, the success rates have dropped a bit. That is, part of that is certainly more students going into it, but also we offer more online courses, and generally those online courses have a success rate of about 55%, and that is consistent with online courses across the state. So we're doing a fine job, but the more we offer, the more the success rates will come down a bit. So, but these numbers are still very strong, but these are not really the strong numbers. The next slide shows the really strong numbers. These are the numbers of first-time students going into English 100. In 2014, we put 16% of our students into English 100, 420 students out of 2,107. 84% of our students went into developmental education. That same number, 2015. By fall 2019, we have no students in developmental education. We have 2,758 students placed into English 100, and we have 1,691 students successfully complete that course. In fall 2019, there were more students successfully completing the course than there were students in 2017 in all of developmental education. If you look from 2014 to fall 2019, 7 times the number of students going into English 100. So we have a full implementation of AB 705 in English. You'll notice the asterisk at the 0 on English 72. We do offer a couple of courses through dual enrollment. So I didn't want somebody to go look in the schedule and see 72 and say, hey, you offer some Dev Ed courses. Technically, those are not Dev Ed courses offered on this campus. So, and I feel very strongly about that, obviously. So why the success?
I'm sorry, just a quick question. You said the dual enrollment course, which is where you're at. Can you go back to the last
Sure.
slide real quick? The dual enrollment course, which is English 72, you said we have that for our high school students, right? Can you elaborate just a little bit on the sequencing here? My understanding is obviously English 20 is the lowest level,
Yes.
correct? Followed by English 72?
Yes.
And then
No, I'm
52?
sorry. No, it's
Okay, I'm just
20,
wondering.
52, and 100. And then what happened in about 2015, before we started with the co-rec, there was a movement towards acceleration. And acceleration was the combination of the two. So 72 is the combination. So it's, you know, it's the 50.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just thank you.
Sure. So why the success? We think it's the co-rec course. You can see here that Nikki Lovejoy and Lynn Serwin started piloting this in fall 2017, 2 sections each. You can see those numbers are okay. And actually the numbers are consistent. On the surface, they look okay. But you need to keep in mind that these students have grade point averages below 2.6. So for those students, many of them had a 40% chance of completing English 100, and the lower students had a 26% chance. So these students are passing anywhere between 64 and 58%. So they are having a much higher success rate than they would if we put them 1 or 2 levels below in Dev Ed courses. So the co-recs have been successful. We've had, and again, Lynn and Nikki offered professional development for these courses for just-in-time remediation. I believe these numbers suggest that the remediation is working effectively, and our students are enjoying that success.
A quick question.
Sure.
In English, what does it mean to have co-requisite support in English? What would I have in addition to you teaching me in the class?
So we have the 2-hour class period, and then we have the additional hour after each class period. So it's 2 hours a week. And so in that, in the just-in-time remediation, the faculty member assesses during the lecture portion what students are understanding well, what they seem to be missing, and then they take that additional lab time to address the areas where the student seems to need support. So what it's not is an additional 1 hour for them to continue lecturing and talking at the student. It is intended to be a much different experience. So now the question is, we have very good success rates, but are these students achieving at the same rate? And the answer is no, unfortunately. And these are areas where we are working. We will continue to work. But I do believe there is good news in this. If you look at the Hispanic Latino line, you will notice that from 2014 to 2019, the number of students enrolled in 100 goes from, I'm gonna round because I'm an English major, 1,400 to 2,900. That's an enormous jump. The 59% success rate equates to 1,700 students. I did that in my head, and that 1,700 is greater than the number of students greater than all the number of students enrolled in English 100 from 2014 to 2017. There are more students successful in 100 right now than were enrolled in 100 previously. So again, we are impacting an enormous number of students in a very positive way. And this, I get to stand up here and talk about it, but it really is the faculty who are working very hard every day working with these students. And you're going to hear from the faculty from ESL, from English, and from reading, and they're going to share with you their experience. So I'm going to talk just a minute about credit ESL. So English has been very successful. ESL has been very successful. They have maintained their enrollments across the 5 or 6 years. They have maintained their enrollments. They have maintained their success rates. And I think, importantly, the success rate moving from ESL 152 to English 100, and that's the big jump, getting them to the transfer level English class. You can see there, out of 276, 201 completed. That is a very high success rate, moving from that 152 to that 100. I'm going to tell you that reading has suffered the toughest blow from AB 705 by eliminating Dev Ed courses. They essentially have said you don't have to take reading. Reading could have responded by tuck and tail and running. Instead, Bonnie and her colleagues have worked very hard to move away from Dev Ed courses to transfer level courses, providing for support to general high intensive reading general education courses like statistics. We have a course directly aimed at statistics that uses the statistics textbook in the class. We have one aimed at psychology, philosophy, and econ, all using the textbook from the course. And so you can see here, this is the developmental education. These are the number of Dev Ed courses that we now offer. You can see we have dropped from 170 to 15, and we will continue to drop our Dev Ed offerings as we move reading out of developmental education and into transfer level. So the bottom line here is liberal arts has embraced it. We are moving forward, and there are challenges. The students are challenging. Some of the students are challenging just in needing support. We want to provide them that support, and the faculty will be here to share the successes, the challenges, and the support they need. Sure.
Going back to that reading one.
Sure.
So who's a reading faculty member here?
Bonnie.
All right. Okay. So even though you were saying that we suffered a little bit in reading, but I'd be curious if your success rate in fall of 2019 at 72.8%, if that's higher than a success rate for a student in developmental reading. I mean, that's the argument, right? That they would be, they were as successful taking this class as they would have, probably even higher than if they were taking a developmental class.
Well, the thing is, AB 705 is saying that we really can't put students in reading.
Right.
So the Dev Ed reading courses are just going to go away.
Right.
And we're in the midst of transitioning to these other courses. Right. We don't know yet what the success rates are, although they have been consistent with these, but they're small courses and small numbers, and we wouldn't want to make broad generalization.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, I probably didn't explain it right, but that's kind of that's one of the criticism of AB 705 is that your success rates are dropping, right? Because you're putting students who may not be as prepared for that.
Yeah,
but I would say that the 72.8% you had, that if you looked at that success rate back in 2014, it's probably just as high or even higher, probably higher than a student who was just in a traditional remedial reading class. So that's, I mean, I was just saying that.
Yeah.
You mean though you feel that the progress is a little bit lower? I still think it's probably arguably higher than, I don't know, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I don't have a good sense of that yet, to be honest. We've just now started transitioning.
I think, and we have had some conversations about this, I think what we need to look is the total success of a student from the moment that he's placed and what it used to be a developmental sequence and today where he's placed directly into a college credit course. So since the math numbers are fresh in my head, we used to place 96% of our students into developmental classes, and it took them between 3 semesters to 6 to 9 semesters, depending on the student, to complete one college credit class, and at that point was 4%, and then 52% or 4, I can't remember if it's 2 or 4, out of that 4% were successful. Today, we are placing nearly 100, but it's probably anywhere between 80% to 100 of our students straight into college level classes with support or without, a combination of the two. and we have nearly 50% completion, meaning that we went from moving 4% of our students into college credit courses in 2014, about 296 students, to have 760 something students completing the same course. So I think the success that we need to measure is all the time that we're saving the students by placing directly into these courses, the very narrow difference in the success rate. Because if we're looking only at the success of the course when they get there, yes, it was a drop of about 2 or 3 percentage points, but we have nearly 4 times as many students completing in their first attempt, meaning they save about 2 years worth of work and thousands of dollars worth of time. So the success rate arguably is significantly higher, in my opinion, with this method. Do we have issues on equity gaps? Yes, we're starting to see those issues actually more clear today than we did before, but that doesn't mean we didn't have them before. We just did not have the correct access to that data, and today we do. So there is some work to do, and I think everyone is rallying around filling those gaps. But I think we need to look at the success as a whole of the sequence of courses until they get to a college credit course, rather than just doing course to course.
So, quick question. I know you may bring this up, so I'm just, as my mind's going, I'm coming up with these questions. But I recognize that both programs that we talked about earlier, both the emoji program as well as the Puente program, one of the requirements, if I'm not mistaken, because my son did the Puente program, even though he qualified to take the English 100 class, in order to be in the Puente program, he had to actually be one level below that. Are we still doing that?
No.
Okay, we just
No,
wanted to
what-
check in, because I know that was one of the requirements of the program itself at
What
some
they
point.
might do is have the English 100 with the COREC, the 100S, so that they are guaranteed support, because maybe some of the students need it and some of them don't, but
Right.
nobody believes the support's going to hurt them.
Okay,
But they would not be doing one level below. No,
okay.
we don't have that class any longer.
Okay, well, I'm really happy to hear that,
Yeah.
because as a parent, I remember telling him, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And his thing is, because I think I'm going to get something in return, and that was a little bit more support throughout those courses. And he did.
Yeah, yeah.
He did phenomenally well.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed that he had to lower his capability just to be able to fulfill the requirements of the program itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
So I'm going to step aside, and I'm going to let April speak on behalf of Janae.
Hello. So I'm here to talk about some successes, opportunities, challenges, and then what we can do to support English. I'm here on behalf of the department chair, Janae Daniello, who could not be here tonight. So the first thing I want to talk about are some of the successes of AB 705 in the English department. The first bullet point you see is the elimination of exit points. What that means is, previously, as Frank mentioned, we had English 20, English 52, or English 72. Every time a student left one of those classes, whether they were successful or not, that's still an exit point. Students get lost on the path because they have to take more classes, right? So these have been eliminated now, and students are just in the 100. So they take the English 100, whether it be with a support or not with a support, and they don't have any of those extra exit points. So it really gets them along and working on their journey toward degree completion. It's also inspired conversations among faculty about how to best serve our students. I remember actually sitting at a Guided Pathways conference, or no, I guess it must have been an AB 705 conference, but there were several English faculty there, and they were talking about what they've been doing in their classrooms, and it inspired the kind of conversation at the table to happen between myself, math faculty, as well as English faculty. Well, what are you doing in the classroom? How are you serving our students? There have been a lot of reaching out across the campus between faculty, staff, and managers, and how do we best serve our students. And I've heard faculty talk about, you've heard Manuel talk about it earlier tonight. I'm sure you'll hear the rest of the faculty talk about it tonight, about how the big and little changes they've made in order to better meet their students. And part of that has to do with the conversations we're having with each other. Additionally, we have actually in the liberal arts division, we have several faculty who are engaging in equity-driven book clubs about grading using equity practices. And we also have faculty who are working together to determine or to work together to find some professional development around equity and better meeting our students. And so we really are trying to have these conversations. And that is that third bullet point of meaningful professional development opportunities. There are plenty of other ones I'm sure that we could go into, but I know we're short on time. So the English department challenges, one of the things that's been really challenging, and I think this is across, my guess is this is going to be across the campus, is that the schedule constraints of part-time faculty make it difficult for them to participate in professional development. So part-time faculty actually teach the majority of our classes, right? So there are a lot of part-time faculty on our campus, and unfortunately, because of the nature of part-time work, they're unable to participate in professional development a lot of times. Because of this, we have faculty who are teaching in math, English, ESL, all of the above departments who may not be or have access to the same development that some of our full-time faculty are getting. And so that's been one of the barriers. Additionally, the equity gaps that existed prior to AB 705 still exist post-implementation. We haven't seen a big change here yet. We know that there have been some institutions that have seen that, but we don't know it's because of AB 705 that the equity gaps closed or because of some other practice they're engaging in. This third bullet is one about faculty feeling overwhelmed by the various needs of their students. So over the course of this year, as faculty senate president, I've had the opportunity to work with math, English, to some extent ESL, a little bit of reading, but other faculty across campus as well. And I would say that this feeling of being overwhelmed by student needs has been across the campus. And I think a lot of this is because we have students who maybe are a little less prepared, or we have students who are coming in a variety of learning levels, and we may not have the ability to work with them. Additionally, you have faculty who are really trying to implement these best practices, whether it be equitable grading practices or changing their syllabus. And to some extent, the change has been so large that faculty are really trying to flip a 180 on their course, which can also be overwhelming. And so it's been very difficult with the local implementation requirements of AB 705 sent down from the Chancellor's office to really get any consistency. And so it leaves faculty feeling kind of isolated and alone and overwhelmed. Additionally, to attend AB 705 related professional development, faculty feel like there's this choice, right? Like you have to either take AB 705 professional development, or you have to or you can go to your discipline-specific professional development. But the problem with that is, what if we want both, right? We may need both. And so it's been a trade-off. How do we prioritize that? And so again, it makes faculty feel a little bit disenfranchised. So what is the English faculty asking for? So the first thing is funding for stipends for online professional development for part-time faculty. So this will be teaching 100S online modules. As was stated in the math presentation, as was stated with Frank on the data, and I'm sure you'll hear from me again at the end for the campus view. But the growth of online education has been huge. Now we need more support in how to better ensure that we are teaching using teaching best practices, as well as engaging with students at a variety of level of needs. Additionally, funding for professional development that addresses equity issues in the classroom, teaching and learning modules, as well as off-campus opportunities. And then again, funding for faculty who wish to attend professional development opportunities such as the CAP conferences. And you'll hear from me again talking about some of the things that we're doing across campus that have to do with professional development and what we're trying to aim for in this next semester. But overall, I think professional development, training, and resources and stipends have really been the things that people are looking for in order to make these drastic changes. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague from ESL, Leanne McGilroy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for all the work that you do on behalf of our students. While Gabby is right that adult education may be the best kept secret on this campus, I would argue that credit, ESL, is the second best kept secret on this campus. And I'm also very proud she's a former student of mine from Cal State Long Beach, and it's wonderful to hear her voice. Part of AB 705 and the corresponding 1805 requires not only, and it's interesting tonight, I kept hearing we're going to hear from math and English and credit ESL. This is all part of, that's what's tied to our funding, and now it is eliminating that obstacle. Students must be informed of their linguistic rights that have been denied to them throughout this state and on this campus, I would argue. And so that is something that we need to do. So our successes, we've embraced this, as many of the other programs have. We have developed ESL pathways that transition students from the highest levels of credit ESL directly into English 100, as you saw earlier, with incredibly high success rates. Most of our students who take English 100, who come from ESL 152, earn an A. Not just passing, they earn an A. We have a 72% throughput, and our students, you saw that number before, of the students, there are 269 students on that chart who took ESL 152. 201 took English 100, and that aligns with not all of our students want to go on to get an AA. So that's about 30% of our students don't have that transfer goal. So that's an extremely high success rate. We have accelerated programs, we have hybrid programs, we have 15-week courses. So not only are we meeting the 3-year requirement, our students can get through extremely quickly and with extremely high success rates in English 100 and beyond. We collaborate regularly with English staff and faculty. We are going to be meeting on Tuesday for a FIG to do norming sessions and talk about how to best serve our students. We've worked very, very hard with the Multiple Measures Committee to make sure that our students are placing correctly. We're still working on some kinks there, but we have definitely developed that self-reporting tool, and that's been successful. And we have UC and CSU transferable credits. So those are each 5 units. So with ESL 120 and ESL 152, students can earn 10 units of UC CSU transferable credits. So not only are they getting college credit, these are transferable units. We're extremely small. I have had a wonderful career in ESL, and I'm so happy that I found my professional home here. This little credit ESL department is one of the crown jewels of this college, and no one is talking about it. And this new legislation requires that we inform our students, not only of their linguistic rights, but what we offer on this campus. Challenges, like everyone else. So this language here comes directly from the law and the legislation, and these are challenges where we are falling short. We are required to inform students of their rights to access academic credit ESL. We must do that. Just as we must inform them of their rights to go straight into English 100, we are required to inform all students. All students. It's not up to us based on a conversation or anything to decide whether or not we share that information. Students need to know that they have the right to access credit ESL coursework. That information must be provided to students and it must be featured prominently in college catalog, orientation materials, assessment website, and any written communications from the college regarding placement options. It must be everywhere. Curriculum changes and creation of guided pathway certificates for ESL students. We're working on that now. That's a challenge that we faced. And we are continuing to demonstrate with data that the placement process is working for their success. Finally, for the support, with math and English, we need your support in this way. And also I would argue the support in just knowing about us. I was very disheartened that it wasn't even mentioned in our discussions leading up to it. It was math and English, and credit ESL. This is very clearly tied to our funding, and so it's very important in that way. So we want to continue with the data collection, that we really do need that support for messaging and communicating to all students their right to access ESL credit coursework. Rick has been in a meeting with me where I was ranting and raving, and he finally said to me, are you going to forgive the past and move forward? And I said, okay, so Rick, I want to thank you because I was very frustrated with some of the practices on campus regarding this. So thank you for getting me back on track and focused on the future. And so we do need the support for messaging so that not only for our students, but also for compliance. Again, as echoed in the other presentations, more support for professional development. Our accelerated courses, I'm so happy to hear how well they're going in math as well. I am a convert. I was very skeptical about accelerated coursework, and it's worked beautifully. And also, again, support for release time for faculty. There are only 2 full-time faculty members in Credit ESL, me and the department chair, and we both teach overload, and we're both working on this. So we need support for our small department, as Gabby said too. Same thing, just acknowledge us that we and that beautiful work that our students do. Those success rates, that data is so beautiful, and it really shows us what is happening with our students. They are really benefiting from those courses. So thank you again for your time. Thank you so much.
Yes. How many students do you have in
All
Credit ESL? Yes, like how big is your program?
369 students.
Okay.
And we are working to bring every single one in. In fact, if I could mention, part of this legislation requires that we tell them. We're in the process of program review right now. 70% of our students find out about our program from friends or family. Only 5% are reporting that they're finding out from college flyers. I also have here that 23% of our students say that counselors did not provide them accurate information in placing. In fact, many focus groups that we've done show that students only find out about Credit ESL after they've taken English courses and been unsuccessful. And then someone said, maybe you should check out Credit ESL. And so it's definitely, again, through the data, through focus groups, it is a glaring problem. So when this legislation came into our laps, we were both just over the moon because it's clearly addressing an issue.
So we have a couple questions, but just to confirm, this part of AB 705 doesn't have to be fully implemented until next fall, right? Or is it, we have a little bit more time on, right?
Yes, we do.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're already, sounds like you already met the goals of AB 705, or no?
Oh, yeah. You know
Wait.
who my dean is.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Yeah, so I would say, like,
we've
you're-
been on the Frank
Right.
train. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
think
Yes.
that's
So
why
we.
it's been-
Yes, we have met those goals.
Right, so a year ahead.
Yes.
So Dr. Fierro and then Ms.
Liam, you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Would you give us your elevator talk of what is Credit ESL? What do you do? And how this wrap around so everyone is on the same page?
Didn't I already get through the interview with you? Okay.
Elevator talk.
Mostly what Credit ESL does is we work on what's called cognitive academic language proficiency. So we do definitely work with students on those basic interpersonal communication skills. Those, I don't like that they're called soft skills, but we're really working on very rigorous academic language. Annotations of outside sources, authentic text, strong academic verbs. We're really trying to give them a college preparatory experience. It's a foreign language instruction, but a lot of us, we acknowledge the needs that most people in the world speak 2 or more languages. Most of us here, I think, do. So, and so it acknowledges the unique needs that multilingual speakers have as we're learning the language. Did I do okay? Thank you. Thanks, boss.
The reason I'm asking is I went through, you know this, I went through a ESL program when I first arrived here, and I can vouch the benefits of it. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that it's not just simply a language immersion program. It's a college prep program that prepares you to enter your college career proficiency in the language, with proficiency in the language, correct?
Yeah, the way I like to explain it is for someone who's maybe monolingual who took a foreign language in school. So I don't know, Frank, did you take a language in high school? What language was that? I know it wasn't French. Okay, so Spanish. So I would say, okay, you know, you feel okay with your Spanish, but Frank, would you feel comfortable studying at the University of Seville in Spanish? But you took it. So it would be a class that would help someone like poor old Frank over there get his skills where they needed to be successful at that university, for him to find his voice in Spanish.
Quick question. Okay, so we have, Okay, so let me just stop everybody right here because it's past 9.
All right.
And we always go to closed session at 9. So a little bit
okay.
more time for people because we have reading, which you want to hear from, and then we still have the campus-wide wrap-up. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up though 100% at 9 by 9:30.
Okay.
So everybody has 7 minutes. Thank you.
All right.
Well, first of all, thank you for clarifying that. I was just going to ask exactly what he has. What is, ESL 125? And then two, I think as you elaborated a little bit about what it really was, my course teacher came on. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great for all of our college students to be able to take something like that just to be grounded? Because I think depending on which high schools you went to, which course you took, whether it was senior, English, what is it, comp, lit, whatever it is now, I don't even know all the terms for the English courses. There's a difference, right? Based on where you went to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that, you talked a little bit about like the annotation component. Some of those things that are now very relevant that weren't so as much when we were in school, in high school, way back when. I won't even tell you what year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's great. And I think maybe even going from maybe an ESL course to something different, because I think just the fact that you're ESL, again, it just goes back to the negativity of how people perceive it. And even any college student, right? You think that it's a course that's less than a regular English class, when in reality, it's preparing you for success in those English classes. So I would look at possibly even changing that, right? Just not calling it ESL 125, but maybe, a different course number altogether.
Well, yeah, and there have been a lot of discussions about calling it global English or English for multilingual students or things like that. But, that's another thing is that we are continuing this legacy of stigmatizing multilingual students by stigmatizing ESL.
Right.
And so a name change, I don't think is going to do everything. I think it's a mindset, it's a mentality, and I think as an institution, we really need to be aware of, are we perpetuating the history in this state that favors monolingual English speakers and does not celebrate multilingual students? And that's really what we also do. We really embrace the multilingualism and see this as a strength and build and advocate for that too.
Thank you. Yes, and we have Trustee Escobar has a question too.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. If a student were to take English 100, would they be able to still take ESL, the ESL 152 and 120?
They would.
Okay, that was my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
All right.
Moving on to reading. Yay.
Which one? Oh, okay. Well, hello. It's after 9, so I'll try to be brief. I'm Bonnie Helberg from the Reading Department. I'm the department chair. I'm a graduate of Cerritos College as well. I'm an alumni. Oh, a little bit more, sorry. And I have been involved with the California Acceleration Project that we've mentioned for about 5 years. I was on the leadership team. And with reading, as you know, we are primarily, that's why we have been impacted in such a way that we have basically always taught developmental courses. And so with this transition from moving developmental courses into transfer level courses, our department has been probably disproportionately impacted versus other areas that have traditionally taught more transfer level. So, but we are prepared for that. We still feel very strongly about the college mission, the Cerritos College mission, to serve all students, all comers, no matter where they come from, no matter their level of preparation. We want to make sure that those students, whether they're returning students, whether they're students who come from underserved communities, whether they are economically disadvantaged, whatever the case may be, we want to be able to make sure that they are provided with the support that they need in the courses that they choose to take here at Cerritos. So our challenge has been to how to transfer that level of support out of developmental coursework and into support courses that students can take while they're also taking college level courses. And let's see. Now, our challenges have been the fact that students are no longer required to take a reading course, but many still need that academic support. So the AB 705 has asked us to streamline student progress through coursework.
So what we are doing, even though that there are still many students who come to us who are unprepared for college level reading, our college level textbooks are often written at 13th, 14th grade reading level. We did a readability on the Stats 112 textbook, and it came in at about 14th grade reading level. And many of our students are not prepared for that. The problems that they're having in reading translate over to problems that they're having in math, or problems that they're having in a sociology course or history course. It's not the content that they're struggling with as much as they are the reading. So how do we meet those needs? How do we serve students who need this additional support but are no longer required to take a reading class? Well, it's through partnerships. Oops. We are developing courses that can assist students as they go. Now, the Reading 101 is one that we have partnered with Statistics. So when Manuel was talking about the reading course that we partnered, with the help of our dean, which I must tell you, a lot of these things wouldn't be happening without the support of Frank Mixon. He's been very, very supportive along the way and has really kind of been the catalyst to getting us together with other content area faculty and starting this conversation about how we can best serve students across the board. So those Math 112 students that are struggling with reading, we developed over the course of last summer a support course. And that is a course called Reading and Learning Strategies for College Success. And that is a transfer level course now. So we developed a transfer level study strategies and success course that students can get GE transfer for, but can also support them with their reading. Now, college success also means that we work on those other kinds of soft skills, such as time management, study textbook reading, note-taking, test-taking, many of those things that undermine students. Sometimes it's not the content of the classes that they struggle with the most, it's managing all those things outside of class. You know, their time management, they work, they have families, they have other outside responsibilities. How do you balance all of that while still being able to be successful and achieve the things that you want to in your classes and in college? We talk about those kinds of things because those are the things that undermine students. We talk about test taking. We talk about how to improve your memory strategies in addition to study reading strategies. So that course and I just talked to Manuel outside, he asked me how it was going. We're offering it this semester, I'm teaching it, has been great. It's the kind of thing that we want to replicate with other areas across campus. 112 just happened to be the one that we started with first because it is a class where students struggle. And so we wanted to be able to pilot it with that group. So we've met with math faculty, been to department meetings. I've gone out to classes and talked to students about this course to kind of build some momentum and some interest and some excitement about a course that can really benefit students in a multitude of ways, not just in their math courses, but in their other courses as well. So the course that we're piloting this semester also in philosophy and economics and in psychology support those students to be successful. And like I was telling him, we have an embedded tutor in our 101 class for statistics, which is amazing because the students can be in class and they can get that support from a statistics tutor while they're in class. And they can also go down to the Success Center following the class and get an hour of additional support. So it's a wonderful model for supporting students and one that we hope to replicate in other classes as well. So that's been one of the things that we've really worked on. We also have 3 new classes that we're also taking through the curriculum process right now. We have a Reading 105 and a Reading 106 and a Reading 107. Now what these are designed for is to support students who are on different career pathways, so guided pathways. So we have one that we're targeting towards STEM students, which could be part of their curriculum as they're going through their courses, their STEM courses. That would be maybe a 1-unit course that would focus on the textbook reading for a particular course. We have another one that's for humanities and social sciences that we're going to be partnering with humanities social science that would be just a 1-unit, possibly repeatable every 6 weeks, that would support student success in those areas. And we have another one for fine arts and communication. So again, that's how we're sort of diversifying, you know, we're sort of getting out of the content area class of our developmental sequence and moving out into the campus at large to support students in whatever area and whatever courses that they're taking. So, and actually this is a very exciting time for us because we are getting to know faculty a little bit more. We are talking to faculty about the reading requirements that their students have and how they can help support the students in their classes through some of these reading strategies. So we're looking for kind of I would say kind of a rebirth of our program through some of these efforts that we hope that will come to fruition in a few years. Yes, we've been hit hard now, but we're kind of we're taking the lead and we're moving forward in those areas. Now, we need to get the word out though, and that's where, of course, when you make these kinds of changes, the people who understand what's going on with AB 705, like those of us in liberal arts, we do. But across campus, that isn't necessarily the case. So how do you get the word out that says, we are now doing things differently, we are now not requiring students to take these developmental reading courses, but we still want to offer instructional support to students, but in just different ways. So that's the challenge, is to get the word out about these new courses, these new opportunities, meeting with counselors. We have met with counseling, but it does take some time to kind of really sort of embed this in you know, our culture here on campus, that this kind of thing is available, not only with the students knowing that this kind of support is available, but also with faculty. So that's really where we are. So we are looking to improve that communication and to get the word out through different strategies, you know, meeting with faculty, meeting with counselors, the word here at the board, making you guys aware of the kinds of things that we're doing. So going forward, you have a sense of what kind of support services are available for students with reading and study strategies, no matter what courses they're taking.
Question. The Math 112 and the Reading Pilot class, what was that number for that class?
It was the Reading 101.
Reading 101, okay. Okay, questions? Yes, Dr. Fierro.
Just a comment. Bonnie, thank you. Just to get a little perspective on the work that is happening in our reading department, with the changes, reading could have been out of business, literally, and in many places that is essentially what's happening. And reading obviously is an incredibly important component for college success, and obviously something that we should all do more of anyway. And our reading department, led by Bonnie, have taken the initiative of revamping the whole program to meet new needs. And I think that is an incredible effort, mostly because we could have taken all, including Bonnie, the easy way out. It's like, okay, no more reading, okay, let's do something else, and that's it. But we do know the most students, many of us perhaps, have a struggle with reading comprehension, reading strategies, particularly as it relates to heavy loads in the sciences, heavy loads in mathematics, psychology, even though psychology used to be a way that people put the students there, but it turns out that it has a high level of difficulty on reading. Yes. And I think the work that you're doing is incredibly important to address the new needs of the students, and perhaps as we develop the program, we can track to the students in this pilot program, because I bet the results over time are going to be something that we should be bragging about, of how a program redesigned to meet the needs is the way to go, rather than just phasing things out completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we have the last part, which is the campus view of AB 705.
So I just want to say a couple of things. Is that first of all, you've heard from several very passionate faculty, and this is the norm for most of our faculty across our campus. And I would also argue that these are not the only departments that have been touched by AB 705. Instead, there have been multiple departments touched by AB 705. Comm Studies feels it because most of our courses used to have prereqs on them. Now students are being placed directly into transfer, and so we have, similar to what English was experiencing, we have students with a variety of needs in our classrooms. Psychology is experiencing it, STEM classes are experiencing it. So it really is something that across the campus we've felt, and I think that we've attempted to respond to in a really positive manner. So some of the successes from a campus-wide view. 1, significantly more students are entering transfer level math and English courses. This is awesome. 2, our faculty are eager to meet the challenge head on. You heard from several of our faculty, and I just want to kind of give a shout out to some of the things that they have been doing. In our program mapping days for guided pathways, Bonnie in reading was visiting every table and really pitching these reading classes, saying this is why you need reading classes that are attached to your higher level courses, and really explaining it. And I had never thought about it before, but then after that pitch, I said, oh, wow, maybe we should start thinking about this. And I started hearing more folks across campus saying that too. Gabby and AED. So recently, AED became voting senators and voting on our curriculum committee. So we are trying to encourage that. We are trying to bring them into the campus. But the faculty out in AED are some of the most responsive, and they are innovative, and they are courageous, and they are really trying to do everything they can for the students. Leanne in ESL has been tirelessly fighting to change those flyers since she got here 4 years ago. But she really is, she's passionate, and her and Joanne, as soon as AB 705 came, there was a lot of moaning and groaning from faculty across campus, but not from ESL. They saw this and they said, this is a chance for us to really get our students heard. And so they've really taken the effort to change a lot on campus. And then Manuel in math, I know he has had all sorts of struggles across campus, whether it be partnering with the business department or creating math proficiencies, but he's really met it head on, and he's encouraged his faculty to do so as well. And I do want to give a shout out to English. They've done a variety of things with professional development, and they've really, again, leaned into this and completely eliminated pretty much the developmental education courses. I also want to give a shout out to counseling, who are really advocating for students and are really attempting to find best practices for placing students. I think they're doing the best that we can with local implementation, and I really want to say that they are working across campus to really understand what all these courses are and how do we best serve our students. And that goes back to us, our constituencies across campus are working together. So we have faculty working with faculty, faculty working with staff in order to get those messages out and hopefully serve our students the best way we know how. So what are the challenges? The first one is that local decision-making processes are uncharted territory. So anytime something big changes, the first thing we do in the state senate and local senate is say, all right, what should we do now? And we got nothing. So it was a local level implementation, which meant that every college or every district was able to choose how they wanted to implement and choose math proficiency, English proficiency, choose how they wanted to use courses, if they want to use co-recs. And so really this is uncharted territory for us because we have to, as a district, make these decisions, but we don't necessarily have all the processes in place to do that. So it was a lot of learning and a lot of growing and a lot of us as faculty trying to work together and work across campus in order to do that. And I think we've tried the best we can in the last few years. The second big challenge is AB 705 rumors and misinformation. A lot of this has to do with the fact that the legislation itself is very brief. And so the interpretations vary across the campus, and everyone hears things from different organizations. I know I spoke to Trustee Escobar recently, and she was saying, oh, I heard a student saying that if they've taken the AccuPlacer, that they can't go into transfer level English because they've taken the test. And I said, no, that's not true. You should go talk to a counselor. But again, it goes back to these varying interpretations. And then the last one is that our multiple isolated efforts across campus result in a duplication of work. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we just don't have the centralized infrastructure, whether it be from the state or kind of our local region, as far as like what should we all be doing for AB 705. So what do we need as a campus? We need a lot of things for AB 705, but the big one that we've heard alluded to through several of our faculty is we really need support through whether it be reassigned time or whether it be infrastructure of people. So the first one is AB 705 Implementation Coordinator. We used to have a Dev Ed coordinator, but Dev Ed doesn't really exist anymore. And so if you look to some of our local campuses like Long Beach City College, they've repurposed that into a AB 705 Implementation Coordinator. This person is often responsible for the messaging, the marketing, the gathering of data, the bringing together of folks, and really ensuring that these campaigns get out across the campus. I think we really need this person because right now we're struggling. Different areas are doing a lot of different things, but we need to really come together and have one centralized effort. The second big ask is the Distance Education Online Learning Office or Department. So historically, we've had an online certification process, but distance education has largely been left to individual faculty to define and find best practices. You've heard from all my fellow faculty today that online education has been growing and that there are challenges associated with that, especially as we get a spike in online learning. And so we really need to have infrastructure, whether that be from instructional designers, instructional technologists, DE coordinators, faculty to faculty, building those courses, but also we need support for students, instructional technologists for them to go visit if they're having troubles with their technology or they need help with Canvas. We also need to have resources and infrastructure and a budget attached to that. The third thing is the campus campaign around AB 705. You heard all my fellow faculty say it. We need to have a concentrated, centralized campaign. My husband works at Chaffey College, and one of the neat things that they did this year is that when students signed onto their portal, they immediately got a pop-up that said, "Did you know the law has changed?" and explained their rights under AB 705. It also sent them a link to the SRT. And so it enabled students to engage in the SRT, but then also pick their courses through a guided placement process without even having to do anything but one click of a mouse. The last thing that we need is campus professional development to address AB 705 related issues. Again, you've heard my fellow faculty say it. We need things around effective domain. We need things about de-escalating situations. We need to learn how to work with a variety of students who have a variety of needs. We need to work with our friends in DSPS to learn how to work with students who have a variety of learning, who may need a variety of accommodations. But we need that from a centralized point. And so we have our CTX coordinator, Chad Green, but I know there are also faculty across campus who are really coming together to determine what we need for professional development. And so one of the things that we're working on is bringing those faculty together to identify some of the big campaigns we can do in professional development to attempt to build the faculty up and encourage them to feel more capable of dealing with the classroom. And again, that's just time and resources. And so I really think that we're doing a lot. We're doing the best we can. And I also want to remind everyone that the law is fairly minimal, right? It's a very limited law, but that there is, as Bonnie and Reading indicated, that we really do need to meet our students where they are. And they're not just here for transfer. The state Senate has passed a resolution in the fall of 2019 indicating that there is room for remedial education in community college. And part of that is because we have individuals who may benefit from that. And so I really want to encourage the board to really embrace that we have cut back significantly on remedial education. And we will continue to do that, and we will continue to do what's in the best interest of our students, but there may still be places for it. And I would just encourage you to support us with the needs of these coordinator positions as well as these offerings. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'd like to hear if anybody has any thoughts on moving forward, additional information, what they want to see, but off the top of my head, I feel like we didn't get a chance to talk about the assessment process, the placement process, counseling, students' rights, which is, I know, something that Trustee Escobar meant. So maybe we could plan that for next month to come back, just that portion of AB 705, because I feel that's a really important part that we did not get to today. And then I know we're getting ready to start the budget process for next fiscal year ready pretty soon. So I would like to see about developing a professional development budget specifically for AB 705 to incorporate a lot of this feedback that we have with our faculty. I think that would be really important to start as the beginning, because I think the board really has prioritized this, I think, as a very important issue. I mean, I feel like this, along with dual enrollment, which Trustee Lewis is a big proponent, like that's a game changer. I mean, I just think that this is really important, and we have a lot of opportunities to do really well here. So I think we've heard a lot from our faculty that they're very committed to this work. So I think I would like to see them putting together a budget request specifically tied to AB 705 professional development. So that'll give them a few months. So those are two things that I would like to see. But the other thing too that we didn't really have a chance to talk about is also supporting our K through 12 teachers too, because one of the things we talked about is greater cooperation between K through 12 and community college, and how they can understand what our needs are. So again, working together. So I would like to see that portion of it too. But I'd like to hear from other people what they would think, like to see next steps on this.
Well, thank you very much. I think your recommendations are great, but I think, as we continue to move forward and as we see this implementation happening across the state and certainly here on our campus, I'd like to make sure that this is a standing item for every fall to come back and review it, because as more progress is being done, it gives us really a better update and sense of where we are. And then two, where we need to continue to move in the different departments and what the needs are. And I was sharing with Dr. Fierro as the presentation was taking place that, it's great to attend the conferences, but I'd actually like the conference to be here, where we actually have the entire staff of the various departments go through maybe a few days of just understanding what it is versus having everybody go off campus. I think, there's many facilitators that we can bring on campus to really hone in on what the needs are for this specific campus versus everybody else, to really address and mitigate any possible issues as quickly as possible so that we're able to implement it in a more efficient and maybe expeditious manner, with having all of the departments meet together as a team, as a college team versus, you go to that portion of the conference, I'll go to this portion of the conference, and then let's get together and figure it out. I feel that, just because everybody's so busy and everybody's got so much on their plate with so many things going on, new courses, the development of and the infusion of courses and everything else happening with various departments to make it more feasible for our students, I would really like to have that budget reflect that component. So, but I appreciate the K-12 component as well, particularly as we talk about dual enrollment, and looking at what some of our students are doing and where they're coming from. I was not familiar with some of the reading courses that we had here on campus, nor the, 125. So of course I learned something new, and I'm excited about that. I love learning. And so I think the more that we're able to highlight some of those really great characteristics of these courses, I think the better suited our students will be. Because, even though you're, let's just say, an exemplary high school student, I think that the way that college courses are taught are very different in many ways. And I can share with you, having been a first-generation student, having gone through the community college system, and then having gone to the Cal State, I always felt, and to this day I still feel and believe, that the community college professors made me work so much harder that when I got to, transfer, I thought it was a joke in some ways, because I was working so much harder here to just be proficient at everything, that when I got there was a complete breeze. I mean, I took calculus for fun, right? I mean, that's how easy I felt it was at the time. So I'm just saying that because I think many students think that community college courses are easier than Cal State courses or UC courses, and I believe just the opposite. So knowing that, I think that, the better that we're able to really highlight those components of our courses, because I think when you think of reading, you think, well, what is it? Just read, right? But as we've heard today, we've been enlightened a little bit more in terms of what those skills truly are and what they really represent in terms of support, and really just honing down on exemplary skills to be successful in any course. So thank you for highlighting that and sharing that with us. We don't know it all. So the more that we know and we're able to understand what is happening in the classroom, the better equipped we are to be those decision makers who support what you're doing in the classroom. So thank you. That would be the only thing. So.
Can I add a comment? So I just wanted to say thank you for describing the cross-articulation and how you've teamed up with math and English in the STEAM. And so I just think that that's a beautiful description of what you're doing to grow across the curriculum. And so I think if there was a bridge, as my colleague Marissa mentioned, for the K-12 system where we could mimic that cross-articulation so that the students are getting the foundation so that when they get here, we're not talking about all of those things that are missing. So I wanted to say thank you for that.
All right, so thank you everybody for being here tonight and sticking through with us till 9:30. We appreciate all your leadership and commitment, and thank you for everything you do on behalf of our students. So, all right, I think we'll skip reports and then we can come back and talk to ourselves after closed session.
Well,
So.
just one important thing. So voting starts Saturday. I just had to say that because it's all across the county. And we are a vote center here at Cerritos College. So, you know, please go out and vote. It starts the 22nd, which is Saturday, and will go up until March 3rd. So that's my PSA. County, I'm helping you out. So that's it.
Hold on. We're going to come back, right?
Yes, we're going to come back.
Okay. Voting, to clarify, for Cerritos College, we're a voting center, but we begin on the 29, 30, 1st, and 2nd. Right.
But if you're really wanting to vote early, go to the county right down the street. They have on the 3rd floor, they actually have an entire voting center, and you're welcome to come anytime. They're open now. And so on the 22nd, they will also be open. So 11 days down the street, 4 days here at the college.
So we will be returning after a closed session because we have another item we need to approve outside. So, okay. Hello, everybody. The two people here. We are reconvening our open session meeting on February 19th, and we will now go to. Okay, we're going to do a readout first out of closed session. Closed session readout. It is reported that in closed session, the Board of Trustees approved a settlement agreement with case number 88721102 and authorized the Vice President of Human Resources, Assistant Superintendent, to sign the agreement. The vote was 6 yeses, 0 noes, and 0 abstains, and 1 absent. Okay. So moving on to item number 3.01, administrative items, consideration to approve the purchase and final certificate of occupancy of real property located at 11143 Barnwell Street, Norwalk, California 90650, and authorize the Vice President of Business Services, Assistant Superintendent, to close escrow. So Dr. Fierro.
Yes, so thank you very much. So we are asking the board to authorize us to complete the transaction on the Barnwell property that is at this point designated for student housing. So I'll ask Vice President Lopez to give us a quick overview of the property and just kind of give us a few updates on it before we make our final decision. Well, Vice President Lopez, get ready. Hopefully, once if you approve, we are planning to have tentatively an open on April 17. So April 17, correct? Yep. So we'll like to, obviously, the presence of the board there in order to kick off our first student housing facility. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll make this brief on it. So just to kind of give you some information. So the property is located at 11143 through 11149 Barnwell Street in Norwalk, California. The building is approximately 10,838 square feet. It consists of 7 townhome-style units with garages. One of the units is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and 6 are 3-bedroom, 3 bathrooms. So the purpose of this property will be to provide housing exclusively for Cerritos College students who are experiencing some type of homelessness or housing insecurity through a community partnership. As you may know, approximately 65% of our students experience at least one form of basic needs insecurity in the past year. 55% of those that were surveyed are in housing insecure, which basically means respondents have a difficulty paying their rent, their mortgage, and struggle paying a full amount of rent, mortgage, and or utilities. Of those that were also surveyed, 15% experience homelessness, which under this definition means a person that does not have a stable place to live. So there is definitely a need for this type of property for Cerritos College. Here is the most recent pictures. I actually was on site today doing some follow-up on some inspections. And so the picture on the right is one of our units, or actually is one side of that. And the very first entry on the right is, so each unit is set up with a 3-bedroom, 3-bath on one side. And then if you look and see if this has a pointer, these are the garages. There's actually 2 garages here. And then on the other side, there will be another entryway. So here's the entryway into this unit. And so there's one here and there's one back here. It's kind of hard to see. And then the same identical on this side. So we have an entryway into here, to the 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom. The 2 garages are sitting right here. And then there's another entryway and then another building on the back side of that. So this is actually right in the middle is an actual driveway. And here's a better shot of the driveway that you pull into that. And so just to refresh your memory, on August 7th of 2019, the board approved and authorized the Vice President of Business Services to enter into escrow and pay a refundable deposit of $100,000 to purchase the real property, contingent on attaining a certification per Ed Code 81530.5 and final board approval. On October 2nd of 2019, I presented and the board approved the certificate report from Critical Structures regarding the evaluation of the real property in accordance with Ed Code 81530.5. On October 18th of 2019, we received confirmation from DSA that the report that we submitted did meet compliance and that therefore is DSA certified and approved on it. And so through our third-party inspection, which is commercial real estate inspections, we have done numerous inspections, both exterior, interior, and sewer. We recently did a follow-up on the expansion of the interior and interior, which just noted some minor things like paint and things of that sort. So we are satisfied with the building itself. The only outstanding thing that we need to do is do a follow-up with inspection of the sewer line, because the original inspection did note some possible blockage. So that work on the contractor was completed yesterday. So we have our scheduled inspector to revisit the site next Wednesday. And based on that report, your approval would be contingent of that final report being acceptable to us, and then we would then proceed with closing escrow. Escrow should take approximately 15 days to fully close and record to the county. Once it's recorded, we would be provided keys and be able to occupy this property. Okay, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions they have. This has been a long time coming. A lot of back and forth, a lot of visits, a lot of follow-ups on it. So we're very excited to be at this stage of the project. Looking forward to get this approved and move to the next step.
Yes, very exciting. All right, so entertain any questions, comments? Okay, so let's go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
so you have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote for this item.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos?
Yes.
Trustee Berkey is absent. Trustee Camacho Rodriguez? Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Lou? Trustee Perez?
Aye.
And Trustee Salazar? Motion passes.
All right, well, congratulations, everybody. Thank you for everybody for your hard work on behalf of our students at the district. I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to address a really big problem that colleges face throughout the state. So exciting news for our students. All right, we will now take into consideration item 3.02, which is consideration of adoption of resolution number 0219A and recognition of Black History Month. So I would ask Dr. Fierro, since you have your computer on, to go a brief overview of the resolution.
Actually, I'm gonna let Maya give
right.
us the honors of go over this resolution. She did work very diligently, and although I like to take credit for her work, I will ask her to please give us a little overview of the resolution and how she got the resolution, because there's a good story behind it. So Maya, please, thank you.
Good evening, board. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your leadership in requesting that we do these resolutions to recognize all of our diversity months, with Black History Month starting as our first resolution, which is exciting. So we were looking really hard to try and find a resolution that we believed would be very suitable and just indicative of the work that we're doing here at Cerritos College. And so I located one, I identified it, and it actually came from Sacramento Unified. And at the time, just as a courtesy, because we try and practice good customer service, so we took the resolution, modified it slightly, and then I sent it to the superintendent at the district. And he responded immediately and said, "Ms. Walker, tell your board thank you. And just want to let you know, my niece is a student at Cerritos College." So we are so excited that the superintendent and the board at Sacramento Unified have been so gracious to let us adopt a version of their resolution. And so what you have before you is really a very thorough resolution that we found, again, that's very powerful to some of the the language around African American contributions, noted and unnoted, recognized and unrecognized, that we thought was really spectacular, because you don't really hear that kind of language in resolutions or in public discourse. So the resolution speaks to also the work to help diversify campuses and communities, and to speak about making it an intentional exercise for campuses and communities to really talk more about Black history as American history. So, and that's really what it comes down to. So I hope that the resolution put before you is adequate and speaks to the work and the heart that this board has taken toward diversity. And yeah, so that was a great way to make a good contact in Sacramento. Thank you, Dr. Fierro, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Maya.
All right, so we would just go ahead and just do therefore be it resolved that the Cerritos College Board of Trustees does hereby recognize the month of February as Black History Month and supports the important work and services provided by faculty, staff, managers, administrators, and residents throughout the district and across the nation. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees will encourage all staff and members of the community to recognize and celebrate National Black History Month through culturally relevant activities and programming. So I will ask for a motion to approve this. All right, Trustee Avalos, and second?
Second.
Second, Trustee Lewis. So I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos?
Yes.
Trustee Berkey is absent. Trustee Camacho Rodriguez? Yes. Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Liu? Trustee Perez?
Yes.
And Trustee Salazar? Motion passes.
All right, okay, so that item has been approved. Okay, so now we will move on to item 4.01, which are reports and comments from district officials. So we can share our reports amongst each other. Anybody have a report they want to give?
No report.
Okay, Trustee Escobar.
Next Tuesday, we will be having a voter registration event here on campus. The student court will be out there trying to give out information on all the measures that will be on the Los Angeles County ballot, and making sure that everybody is aware of what's going on. We will also be distributing beautiful flyers that Ms. Maya Walker has created on AB 705, so students can be aware of their student rights in general. And that's all I have to report today.
Anybody else? Yes, Trustee Avalos.
So on that, okay, you can now register to vote the same day and vote the same day. So it will be same day registration. If folks who decide, like, I'm not registered, I didn't register in advance, show up to any voting center, register to vote, get a provisional ballot, and you will be able to vote that same day. So just letting everybody know that if for whatever reason they're not on campus that day, they didn't make it, you can still go vote if you show up to a vote center.
I had the privilege and honor of going to the Norwalk 50th anniversary of their Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, and a lot of inspiration at 6:30 a.m. for sure. And tomorrow morning is the Norwalk Educational Alliance mock interviews, in which I will be participating in the morning session, helping our local high school students with their interview skills. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to April 17th. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that concludes our meeting today, right? Nobody else, any other items? So we will conclude the meeting adjourn at 10:18 p.m. Another record.